Hey, it's Bob Nagan, and today we're going to explore whether independent retailers should pass along credit card charges. So on our Whiz Bang Retailers Facebook group, which if you're not a member, I'd encourage you to go over and join, there's been a lot of conversation around is it okay for independent retailers to pass along the credit card charge? You know, typically it's 3% or 3.5%. It's added to the bill if a customer chooses to use a credit card. Now, I'm going to add two things to that bucket. These are little things that sort of tie into this whole credit card conversation. Another thing that I'm going to add to that bucket is there has to be a minimum purchase to use your credit card. You have to spend $10 if you're going to use a credit card, otherwise you have to pay cash. The third one, and this is a lot more benign, but I think it's still not good, is the whole idea of asking people to pay with cash. So giving a discount if they pay with cash rather than a credit card. So all of those are in the bucket. So let's have a couple of conversations here. Two things to think about. The first thing is this, that whenever I have these sort of controversial conversations, I always preface them with this idea that you are a business owner. And as a business owner, you have every right to do whatever you want to do. So as a business owner, you have a right to charge your customers 3% to use their credit cards. This is the beautiful thing about owning your business. However, you also get to live with the consequence of your decisions. You make the right decisions, you get the benefits of that decision. You make the wrong decision, you suffer the consequence of that wrong decision. But the beautiful thing is it's your decision. The other thing that I want to talk about real quickly here before we get into the exploration is that I am a small business person just like you, and that we take credit cards just like you. Almost all of our sales are credit card sales. So I know some of you may be watching me exploring this conversation, exploring this idea, and go, Bob, you don't understand. But I'm making this clarification because I do understand. We run a lot of volume, thankfully, a lot of volume through our credit card processor. So I know your pain, I feel your pain, and I'm coming at it as a small business person just like you. So the short answer, should you, as an independent retailer, pass along credit card charges? The short answer is no. The long answer, should you, as an independent retailer, pass along credit card charges? Hell no. Just don't do it. Let's look at this thing from a customer experience perspective. You know, if you've been part of our community, you know I talk about this idea of WWMCW. What would my customer want? And I don't think your customer wants to pay an extra 3% to make up for your credit card processing expense. So now think about this for a moment. Let's say that Indy comes into my store and my team gives her a great experience. You know, we've got a great store like you do. It's well merchandised. It's got the right inventory levels. Indy does a great job. She brings me to the counter. And at the end of an otherwise fantastic experience, I see I have to pay more. So does that make me happy? Does that make me enthusiastic? Does that make me want to shop more? Or does that make me feel like I'm being nickeled and dimed? And I can tell you the answer. That makes me feel like I'm being nickeled and dimed. Recognize this. Your customers don't care about your costs. They just want to feel really, really good about shopping with you. And at the very end of the transaction, after the whole thing's said and done, you're sitting at the counter. You want to be able to hand that person the bag or the box, look them in the eye, and know they're leaving happy. But if they stand at the counter and then you charge them more, it just feels, I don't even know the right word, it just feels a little dirty. And that's not the right word, but you know what I mean, because I feel this every time I get charged extra. So let's talk about the money, the financial implications of it. So back in 1989, Michael LaBeouf wrote a book called How to Win Customers and Keep Them for Life. Now, you could say, Bob, 1989, that's a long time ago. These statistics are no longer relevant. And it could be argued that these statistics are not relevant anymore. I would argue that the statistics I'm going to share with you are more relevant now because people have more shopping options now than they had in 1989. So that when you listen to these statistics, I'm encouraging you to think about them in the context of there's even more competition now than there was when these statistics were, when the studies were done, when the statistics were, when the findings were presented. So in this book, Michael LaBeouf, after his studies, said that 96% of people who have a problem with a small purchase or a service at a store don't complain about it. You know, it's just a pain in the neck to complain. If it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. Rather than, let the hair of your back stand up and go into the confrontation, it's easier just to not say anything. So 96 out of 100 people just don't say anything. But this is where it gets interesting. 91% of that 96% just don't shop there anymore. Let me say it again. 96% don't say anything. 91% of the 96% don't go there anymore. So when you start to think about building your business, the name of the game is to build a bucket filled with customers, right? J. Conrad Livingston, the author of Guerrilla Marketing, defined marketing as being an ever-increasing base of customers that you can sell to again and again. Think of all of your customers, your customer database, as a bucket. And the name of the game, if you want to build a long-term sustainable business, is to have as few holes in the bucket as possible. And if you let somebody go for 3%, that's a big hole in the bucket. And so I just think that when you think that way, when you think about 3% as a cost, not as a cost of doing business, not as an investment in letting your customers pay the way that they want to pay, you may be saving pennies, but it's costing you dollars, lots of dollars. Because at the end of the day, a customer doesn't represent a transaction. A customer represents a relationship and a lifetime value. So I hope that this conversation and those statistics help you think about your business and whether you are going to charge or not in my light. I hope that I have convinced you, because at the end of the day, You get to do what you want to do. And the purpose for this is if you are sitting on the fence thinking about charging your customers, thinking that, well, more and more people are doing it, therefore it must be okay, I'm encouraging you to recognize it's not okay. Even though it might be a common business practice, it's not a good business practice. Or if you're sitting on the fence, or maybe you're charging now, but you only did it because more and more people are doing it, I'm hoping that this conversation prompts you to go to the front of, go to your counter, take down that sign and quit charging your customers to use their credit cards. And if you are charging people and this didn't cause you to change your mind, that's okay. It is your decision too. But what I really wanted to do in this conversation today is to make sure that you were making a decision with all of the available facts, with all of the perspective, or namely with my perspective. So anyway, I hope that you found it helpful. Please put your comments down below. I don't mind if you disagree with me. And by the way, if you haven't registered for the Retail Success Summit yet, I would encourage you to register, because one of the things that happens at the Retail Success Summit is when you sit in a room filled with 400 growth-minded, really, really customer-focused retailers, that whole right way of thinking really starts to take root in your mind. You really start to think about your business and your relationship with your customers in a very, very customer-focused way. And that is the way to success in today's world of independent retail. So if you haven't registered, we would love to see you in Grand Rapids, June 12 and 13. Like I said, it's going to be awesome. Hope you can be there. I'm Bob Nagin. We'll see you next week.